Hello and a warm welcome to Federal Special Program Capital Beat. In the aftermath of the Pahalgam terror attack and subsequent ceasefire, BJP and Congress have launched competing yatras to honor the armed forces. Now, BJP's Tiranga Yatra, what does it do? It aims to celebrate the military valor, while the Congress's Jai Hind Yatra raises questions about the ceasefire and potential foreign intervention. And they also say that they are expressing solidarity with the armed forces. Now, national security issues and the struggle for control over the nationalist narrative has become the center of politics. But the big question is that can Congress counter BJP's triumphalism in the coming days? Joining me now this evening is S. Srinivasan, who's the editor-in-chief and the group head of the federal group. So thank you so much for joining. We have Sanjay Jha, who's a former spokesperson of Congress, columnist and author. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for joining. And we have Vivek Deshpande, senior journalist and political commentator. Thank you, Vivek, for joining. And I'll begin with Sanjay. Sanjay, the kind of competing yatras we see on both sides, whether it is BJP or Congress, now can Congress really counter this triumphalism? We are seeing all shades, and just now, just a short while back as we speak, Supriya Shrinade had held a press conference and she played out the clip of the deputy chief minister of Madhya Pradesh, Jagdish Devra, who said that the armed forces are bowing before Prime Minister Modi, and that was the central theme of the press conference. And she said that how can that happen? And this man should be sacked. This is what the Congress's demand was. Then another statement which he made was that yesterday, apparently, I think it was in Rajasthan somewhere, some BJP leader was found wiping his sweat with the Tiranga. So, with these images becoming, as part of the media reports, do you think that Congress can really counter it well and it's doing well?
Neelu, good afternoon to you and to Mr. Deshpande and Mr. Srinivasan as well. I hope that India's politicians realize that by trying to politicize the military or the defense services, they're doing a great disservice to the nation. For example, remember 2019, Wing Commander Abhinandan became part of the poster campaign of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mr. Modi, as a prime minister, literally campaigned the whole of the 2019 elections on the Balakot strike. I remember speeches made talking about how the Pulwama massacre had to be avenged. Eventually, like it or not, the truth is that a large degree of public opinion does get influenced by the hyper nationalism or the muscular, kind of intensity that is demonstrated. Uh, I do also, however, like to believe that the people of India will be a lot more discriminating in choosing with the passage of time. For example, in what has happened after Pahalgam, number one, people are not very convinced that Pahalgam intelligence and security failure, the accountability can be washed away or ignored. I do believe that the government has a lot to explain for. However, because Pakistan is an exporter of cross-border terrorism, any action taken against Pakistan will create some degree of tit for tat, a satisfaction that people get. I think the people here are also witness to a couple of truths. One of them is the way Himanshi Narwal was trolled by the right-wing ecosystem. We saw how Vivek, my friend Vikram Mishri, was attacked relentlessly. India's foreign secretary, they dragged his daughter into it. And I say my friend because he's my batchmate. We studied together. And an extremely distinguished guy who did his job remarkably well, in my opinion. Look at the example of what Vijay Shah, the Madhya Pradesh chief minister, the minister said the other day. He's an 8-time MLA, and his statement on I think Colonel Sofia Qureshi will go down as a complete disgrace. I mean, the court had to take up that issue suo moto and use words like dangerous, cancerous, and an absolute shame. Now, these are all BJP people. That's the whole ideological mindset. What Supriya has apparently played out is the kind of language that you expect from the
Yes.
BJP, which has created this whole cult character about Mr. Modi. But I do think, Neelu, I'll wrap it up and love to hear what the others say. I do believe that the mirror has cracked on this occasion. People of India have seen the meek surrender before the United States, which has ended up becoming in perception as a third party intermediary. Donald Trump has talked about bringing about or brokering a ceasefire, the role of JD Vance and Marco Rubio. And I think the fact that they have talked about mediating in Kashmir, no matter how many denials come from the MEA today, what is the truth? The truth is the ceasefire was only officially announced by India after Donald Trump had tweeted about it. That is cannot be denied. It's on the historical archives already. So I think Mr. Modi's government will now try every trick in the book, because all they know is to try and divert attention from the more fundamental failures of this government. They will try every trick in the book to say that we have won, because propaganda is going to be part of this strategy, that we have managed to put things in place. If you heard Mr. Modi's speech to India, he never acknowledged the failures in Pahalgam. There was no mention of Donald Trump's outrageous assertions. In fact, by saying that every time there's a terror attack, we'll treat it like an act of war. There are a number of red lines that have been created. And I do feel that the Congress has an opportunity today that instead of, well, they can stand with the government, which they did, and they did a good job of it. But now they need to question this government, which, in my opinion, has been a failure on foreign policy. We had no support from Russia, which remained neutral. Turkey and Azerbaijan openly backed Pakistan. China is on the side of Pakistan, providing military and defense support. So India is essentially remains isolated. So Mr. Modi's government has been a disaster on foreign policy, a disaster on internal
No,
security,
but Sanjay,
and
then what do you
definitely
think?
borders.
Another quick question, and then I'll come to Vivek. Then that Sanjay, then what is the point if India seems to be failing as what you're describing, that it has failed diplomatically, it has failed to to convince the people? What is the use of these BJP Tiranga yatras in various districts across the country? What is the use? Will the
Well,
people get convinced of these of this yatra conducted by BJP? Then I'll come back to the what Congress's yatra. Yes.
Nilu, the truth is that the Indian armed forces are brave, they're strong, they're gutsy. I mean, they have done everything they could given their capacity. I mean, end of day, they have to listen to the civilian leadership. And I think they delivered. The problem is that the BJP as a political party has always tried to maximize publicity out of them. So Tiranga Yatra supposedly being done for the armed forces, the armed forces don't need this publicity. Armed forces have a different character, they have a different protocol. They believe in doing their job and let their work speak for itself.
So
And they
are
have
you
done
saying
well.
Congress's no, but are you saying that even Congress's Jai Hind Yatra would not be too meaningful with a
I
kind
think
of yes?
I think the Congress is basically doing it to ensure that the BJP's propaganda is effectively neutralized. I don't think the Congress as a party is doing that I don't believe anybody needs to back the Indian armed forces because they're excellent. They have been exemplary. The BJP, as I said, even in 2019, they're doing the same playbook. And here, I believe because the BJP has not been able to get any mileage, because Mr. Modi has come across as a weak prime minister, India looks a little isolated diplomatically. Pakistan, frankly, has done better than India on the propaganda war. America has said that they will like to mediate in Kashmir, and they have actually, earlier India and Pakistan appeared dehyphenated. Now the two stand hyphenated. So end of day, there is a problem. I think Mr. Modi's government has been an absolute mammoth disaster of epic proportions. And I think the Congress has every right as an opposition party to kind of
True.
go and tell the people that ask questions of, to begin with, why did Pahalgam happen? Which is the trigger for everything that's happened subsequently.
Right. All right. So I'll come to Vivek now, and what Sanjay just said, that there is no need to do politics over the armed forces. But what Congress is doing is trying to neutralize the propaganda spread by the BJP. So my question to you is that is Congress trying to do it effectively? Because if you remember, I think it was on the second or the third day they had expressed solidarity with the armed forces on the first day across the country, which happened. That was called a Jai Hind Yatra. Now they are coming out with the second version starting from May 20th to 30th of May. Where they are also raising questions that, what are the reasons behind the ceasefire? Why this foreign intervention by America? So all these questions are being raised. So do you think that Congress is coming across as an effective opposition in expressing these ideas and also countering BJP's propaganda?
Yeah. Nilu, I think not yet. I mean, the Congress has to cover a lot of ground because, as Sanjay rightly said, BJP's hyper nationalism takes over from where it possibly. I mean, if at the end of the 3 days of this so-called war, the BJP there was complete silence in the BJP camp and among the supporters of the BJP and Sangh Parivar. Nobody knew what exactly had happened, and the supporters of the BJP were really taken aback that the government has actually accepted a ceasefire, and they were not in a position to understand why. Nobody was telling them why the government has accepted the ceasefire. And then came Mr. Modi with his speech, and that is his Brahmastra. I mean, Mr. Modi knows that when he speaks, people will accept him. And suddenly, the social media of the right wing was abuzz with, the praise for Mr. Modi and the content of his speech. So people who were actually quite disappointed with the withdrawal of the with the war, withdrawal of the war and ceasefire, they were enthused by the content of Mr. Modi's speech. So basically, BJP thrives on propaganda. They are not doing anything good, but they make it look good with their propaganda, and hence the Congress has to counter. You have no other go than to counter the propaganda with your own propaganda. So how effectively does the Congress do it is the question. Now, what the Congress needs to take care of is it should not. It has to kind of tell the people and convince the people that supporting Modi government is not supporting the country. We are supporting the country. We are supporting the nation, and supporting the nation and supporting the government are two different things. So we will
Yeah.
ask questions of Modi government because those questions serve the country well. For example,
No, but
the most important question.
isn't that what
Yeah.
Congress is doing, Vivek? But isn't that what Congress is doing? Congress is
No, no.
also raising questions and they're also
Yeah.
expressing solidarity.
One of the questions, one of the very important questions that is not being pushed very vociferously and powerfully is that if the Indian armed forces were doing that well, and we had the upper hand over the Pakistan, then why did we accept the ceasefire so early in the day when the people were expecting this war to be taken right to Karachi and Lahore and were not? So why did we wind it up if we were dominating, if we were kind of beating Pakistan at its game, then why did we wind it up so early? And the most important question, any ceasefire anywhere in the world, in history or in the present times, no ceasefire happens without any terms and conditions. And the Modi government has not told the people under what conditions were stipulated, what terms were stipulated for this ceasefire to Pakistani government. If, as Mr. Modi has claimed and as the BJP has claimed, if Pakistan was actually begging for ceasefire, then we had all the more reason for to extract some advantages out of it, some concessions out of Pakistan. The most important being the Pakistan, as long as the Pakistan doesn't hand over those terrorists who were involved in Pahalgam, we are not going to end this war. Why didn't we say that? I mean, these are the kind of questions that have to be raised publicly very vociferously. And these are the questions on which Mr. Modi has no answers. I mean, if you were dominating, if you were winning this war, why did you accept the ceasefire without any condition? It doesn't happen anywhere in the world. It has not happened in history. It has not happened in present times, and it will not happen in future. Ceasefire has to be with some certain conditions being imposed by a party, by the country which is dominating this war to the country which is actually losing. So what was the fact? Were we losing because we didn't stipulate any condition? We didn't ask for any condition to be fulfilled by Pakistan, and we accepted the ceasefire. Does it mean that we were losing the war? I mean, those are the kind of questions that must be asked very, very vociferously, very powerfully among the public, and we must keep on harping this question. And the government must be forced to answer these questions until and unless you take your propaganda to that level of decibels to which the BJP raises its propaganda, you will not be able to counter it, because remember, BJP thrives entirely on propaganda. There is no substance in BJP's campaign. Nilu, yeah.
Okay, I'll come to Srini sir. And Srini sir, what we've seen in the past few days, since the time Congress has been holding regular press conferences, regular briefings, uh, alongside with whatever press conferences have been happening from the armed forces, from the MEA, and Congress has repeatedly questioned the reasons for the ceasefire. Now, lately, they've started questioning on the accountability, that how accountability will be fixed. They had a recent CWC meeting in which they said that now accountability question also comes in the center, and we should ask repeatedly. They call for a special session. But is that enough with the kind of propaganda machine which BJP has? Do you think that Congress is doing enough, or should they be going some extra mile to bring out these points? And as Vivek said, that it should be, these questions should be asked more vociferously.
Yeah, thank you, Neelu. Good afternoon, Sanjay. Good afternoon, Vivek. I think both of our guests have raised all the points possible. That what are the issues on which Congress can really try to put, BJP in a corner. There are enough and more points here available. I think the whole IMF issue, for in 28 times, perhaps in 24 years, they've gone to IMF. This time again, there's 16.5% vote share which America has, 25% vote share with all the European countries put together. Where did we fail diplomatically to insist? And on the board, the people who actually spend those money in Pakistan, on the members of the board are actually army generals. I mean, how IMF, World Bank, the so-called Bretton Woods sisters, who go on imposing conditionalities all around the world, failed to see this. Why India could not, it tried, I think they tried to abstain from the voting, but it didn't help. Then there are other issues. They have completely hyphenated what we have tried all these years to ensure that India-Pakistan is not hyphenated. And every time the name India comes, Pakistan would also come. I think Trump has done that. So some of the biggest problem, I think most of the things they have outlined is absolutely right. But there are bigger issues which how Congress is going to tackle. I think I was just talking to Puneet before this, and one important issue is this seems to be Commandant 2.0, that they have mixed nationalism very effectively with religious polarization, which they have been doing all these years. So this combination is a very potent combination. How are they going to break this is a big question. Because you have, on the other hand, the Mandal, say 1.0, whether they have actually managed to take it to another level, which is yet to be seen, though Rahul has been talking about it, raising these issues. Whether he has been able to, how is Congress party going to communicate is a big question. The other big question is, you see, Rahul has been speaking in Parliament and warning about various issues. One particular issue he has been constantly insisting on the rise of China. And he has been saying, look, you have to look at a big picture. You have to look at where we are heading for. We have to strengthen our manufacturing. We have to strengthen our economy. We have to be as strong and powerful as China is. So look where China is. We were on the same level of development and where they have gone ahead today. In this war, one particular thing has happened. It's been a hybrid war, which means it's not just how soldiers fight on the battlefield. It was also on the communication war, which has happened simultaneously. And I think Sanjay was right in saying that Pakistan seemed to have international media. They seem to have managed to get a bigger pie on that particular aspect. There seems to be more discussion on whether the question of Rafale versus J-10 aircraft, J-10C aircraft. I don't know whether it's a military establishment or it's a huge military industrial complex which is very active around the world. They would like to be looking at it very carefully. For them, this is a very important issue. But on the other hand, India is saying, look, we have gone and shot, we have killed 100 terrorists. These are the guys. It's the same land where you discovered Osama bin Laden hiding in your backyard. This seems to be falling on deaf ears. Nobody seems to be listening to these aspects.
Right, but sir, can I interrupt you here? These points which you mentioned that apparently the Rafales have been down, and so this point has not been vociferously said by Congress, and they have their own reasons. They are saying that we should not
So,
question
so
this.
I'll come to that. Look, I'm also not going into the question, because whether the Rafale are downed or not, we yet don't know, because there's no confirmation which has come from the government. I think we should wait for that. And I think Congress party correctly did not raise it when the war was on, when the battle was on, almost a war-like situation. Because they understand how tricky the path is. I think they'll have to wait for this before they start raising this question. I'm also not completely going with that, but what it appears is there is a sense, the way the analysis is happening in the world media, in YouTube and elsewhere, in military establishment and write-ups, it seems, well, the way everybody is discussing is this could be a deep seek movement for Chinese military complex, military power, because like DeepSeek has shaken everybody, and the Altman suddenly felt what has happened to his AI. Suddenly, something seems to have happened here, and that's the kind of change this particular battle seems to have brought about. It's not about. I'm sure Indian Army men, Indian Air Force, very well trained, and they're very good, and they fought it very well. But that's not the question here. The whole thing is looked at very differently. What as an India, the worry is whether the whole terrorist question. See, end of the day, the whole thing confrontation started with what? They come to Pahalgam, kill 26 people, innocent people, 25 Indians, one Nepalese, and then go. So this has to be punished. I think all of India wants this. Everybody would say that some action should be taken. The action was taken. And then we only did, targeted this thing on the action on the day one. We used precise missile only on those spots which need to be affected. We ensure there's no collateral damage. That's what Indian military and armed forces are saying, and I have no reason to disbelieve them. I think they are right. But on the other hand, even the government is struggling a bit to take across this point of view. And in this situation, now there is a proposal from the government that there is a delegation which should be taken of all-party delegation, which should go, including the leaders from opposition, including Congress. So they have a certain duty to explain this to the world. This is terrorism question has to be raised. But then how are they going to do it is a big question, because it's a very, very tricky situation for Congress party also. So all I'm trying to say is that there is a military aspect to this whole thing. Everybody supports the armed forces. Everyone is backing them. Then there is a political leadership. There is a diplomacy, the way it was handled, the various decisions taken, the intelligence question which comes before that. All those issues, they have to very carefully separate them so that they don't get intertwined, and then it's made into a mash. Of course, there are a number of issues. There is a dismay within the Sangha Parivar, within the hardliners of the Saffron family. The sense of dismay is that they all thought, because they've been fed on a certain kind of propaganda and language all these years, they all firmly believe that we have captured Karachi. You could see that in some of those Rawalpindi. You could see in television channels some of them actually pushing these kind of narratives. So there's many of them perhaps believed it, and it was perhaps a lot of dismay to them that what happened? Why did we stop after 3 days? So, and then they have these loudmouths, talking all kinds of things. So there are a lot of problems for BJP also to deal with it. There are a number of issues on the table. And Rahul's assertion that, China is now, we have to look after, because now China is no longer considered after this country which just makes some crackers and exports some cheap, drug assemblies. It has also shown that it can, in the AI it has shown now, it seems to have shown on the military technology, which only US and the West used to take pride. So the whole game has changed globally also, but the Congress therefore really faces a big challenge of articulation into a language which is understood by a man on the street. And how they're going to do it, Whether these yatra will actually help, whether this is Tiranga or anything else, how are they going to, the Jai Hind Yatra, how they're going to do it is a big question. So, unfortunately, the Congress leaders spend most of the time fighting among themselves, whether it is going to be Shashi Tharoor or whether it is going to be,
That's right.
So they have there's a lot of homework to do. There's a big opportunity for them, but then it's up to them how they've managed to encash it. That's what I think.
Yeah, very interesting insight, Shri sir, you gave. But I'll come for the concluding remarks to Sanjay and Vivek also. Sanjay, so what Shri sir said, you want to respond to it that Congress needs much more to articulate better. And will it be able to puncture the triumphalism of BJP if it sidesteps the military aspect and just focuses on the political aspects?
Well, Neelu, there are a couple of things that the Congress party must do. Number one, give an example of Uri. The government talked about a surgical strike that had happened before, but this government made a big public demonstration of it. There was even a movie that was released on Uri. And after Uri, you had a terror attack in Pulwama. In Pulwama, we lost 40 of our CRPF soldiers, and we were caught napping, literally napping. Can you imagine a truck with RDS explosives moving around that area, not very far from Srinagar? And what did the government do? They did Balakot strikes. Now, at that point of time, a lot of people asked that question, right? That what really happened during the Balakot strike? And the government said, if you question the strike, it's anti-national. Fair enough. The BJP wins that election. Now, after the second, counter attack by India, you have had Pahalgam. So I think it's very important for the Congress to communicate this message to the people of India that until the terror infrastructure in Pakistan is substantially decimated, we are not going to be through with the risks on terrorism. So for the BJP to talk about this triumphalism, even Mr. Modi's speech had the same thing. It gives a very wrong message, because that was the message that made a lot of innocent people go to Jammu and Kashmir for tourism anyway. I think that question needs to be asked. What made Mr. Modi and Mr. Shah say that terrorism has been wiped out of Jammu and Kashmir, when everyone who follows JNK knows that there were attacks happening in different parts of Jammu and Kashmir, and certainly in Jammu? So here is the fundamental point, that the terror infrastructure in Pakistan, despite whatever damage we may have done, is far too widespread and deeply entrenched, funded by the ISI. It is not going away anywhere. So for the government, it needs to recognize that reality, and the Congress needs to communicate the message that this battle against terror is a long, drawn-out battle. The second point is, the war with Pakistan is no longer a war with Pakistan. It's a two-front war. Unofficially a two-front war, because China doesn't have to provide its own as they say, soldiers with feet on the ground. I mean, they are providing sophisticated missiles, as Mr. Srinivasan said, a very, very high-powered JL-10 aircraft, which apparently is formidable. Besides the drones that we saw coming from Turkish drones or Chinese drones, I don't want to comment on that. So you can see that today India is more vulnerable than ever before. And I think, therefore, the issues for the Congress are far too many. But when you actually go on a Jai Hind Yatra, you need to connect with people emotionally. You can't convey hard logic. You can't get into data. You can't get into national security. The talk has to be, listen, what happened after Pulwama? Do we know where was the failure? Is somebody accountable for Pulwama? Who is responsible for Pahalgam? There are no answers. I mean, we have to demand answers as citizens of the country. People have got intimidated to ask these questions because the BJP, with the big media support, says you are anti-national if you question anything of the government. And the Congress needs to be at the forefront of saying, we will question because we represent the will of India. We represent the votes of India. We represent MPs who represent the people of this country. Come on. The opposition is 63%, which is not BJP votes. I mean, give them another 6-7% of NDA votes. Majority of the votes are anti-BJP votes. And therefore, I think this has to be communicated with feeling, with sentiment, with care. And I think most important, the Congress needs to expose the horrific attacks on Colonel Sophia Qureshi, on Himanshi Narwal, on the way they basically, I think they're very crude, in my opinion, BJP, and the Congress needs to expose that.
So, whatever points you've raised so far, that these are the things A, B, C, which Congress should do, Congress has held press conferences and they've listed that out through press conferences, through their own videos on their own Congress channel. But again, is that enough? Do they need to now go door to door? Because it is such a big turning point that Vivek, will they need to now go door to door on this? Maybe asking for resignations of the prime minister. Many leaders have voiced that. Then asking for accountability, also asking for the investigation on Pulwama, which hasn't been, I mean, even if it has been done, nobody knows what has happened. Nobody knows the truth of what happened then. So are these the questions which Congress now needs to take door to door?
Yeah, Nilu, the Congress really needs to take these questions to the people and in a very forceful manner. You can't be pusillanimous about it. You can't be holding it back because the BJP always goes hammer and tongs against opposition and in furtherance of their agenda, in furtherance of their point of view, howsoever wrong it might be, howsoever flawed it might be, the BJP strength lies in taking their agenda and their point of view in a very, very vociferous manner with huge support on social media and a lie being told 100 times make it look like a truth. That is the formula they have been adopting. So if you have the truth on your side and if you put that truth across 100 times, then I think a lie being put 100 times across to the people, uh, truth makes greater sense. I mean, if you do that with truth, it makes greater sense, and it will really appeal to the people on a very big scale. So the first thing is that you can't be holding it back. You have to take your propaganda to the highest possible level. That is the thumb rule that Congress has to follow on any issue, not just this issue. Uh, as far as these questions are concerned, the Rafael question, for example. I mean, why did nobody in that press conference, which was addressed by top military officials, why did nobody ask this question? Why did the Congress also not ask this question? That if the DGAO is telling us that when it was asked to him that what is the fact behind the reports that we lost some of our fighter jets, to
No,
which
there was
the
a
DGA,
question. I remember
yeah,
because I followed the MOD press conference. There was a Hindu reporter who questioned the
okay,
people.
okay, whatever,
Then he
whatever.
was told,
So the
what he
DGA,
was told
the
was,
D,
we neither
yeah,
confirm nor deny. We neither
yeah,
confirm
but
nor
the
deny. That was the answer.
yeah. The DGAO said that in a combat situation, losses are to be expected, but all our pilots are safe. Now, when he says that, what does it mean? Does it? I mean, you have to ask a counter question. So, does it mean that we have lost the planes? I mean, please come clean on that. That is what, and the nation wants to know. The nation needs to know. And if the pilots have come back safe, where did those aeroplanes, the jets, fall? Did they fall in our territory or they fail in the Pakistani territory? Because that's a very important question. If the pilots have come back safe, it means that the jets have fallen in our territory. And if they have fallen in our territory, it means that they were shot down as soon as they were airborne. And that's a very, 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 very tricky question for the Modi government to answer. I don't know whether they will answer that question ever, but that question has to be posed to them. And the questions have to be posed in a way which will not antagonize our army, that which will not antagonize our defense forces, armed forces. And they will not rub them the wrong way. That is the way we have to ask those questions. But national interest must be served through those questions. And there is no harm in asking those questions as long as you ask them in a very, very, as Srinivas said, in a very articulated way. So that is how yeah, the Congress has to take this its own propaganda on the issue forward. Propaganda is a wrong word. It's a negative word, but then in today's India, when propaganda is something which actually clinches the issue in favor of people doing all wrong things, then I think you will also have to resort to propaganda at the highest levels of decibels.
Right.
So the Congress has to ask this question, keep asking those questions through the yatra which they are taking out, and convince the people about one particular thing in this war, that when the Indian armed forces, when the Indian defense forces were actually putting the Pakistani forces on the back foot? Why did the government choose to withdraw without putting any condition on the Pakistani side? That is a question on which the BJP government is completely on a slippery ground. They will
But
never be able to answer that question satisfactorily to even to their own audiences. So I think there is enough ground for the Congress to corner the BJP here and puncture the BJP's propaganda needle.
But I'll pick on that point where you spoke about the national interest. And Shinisa, I would like to understand from you, and I'm sure the viewers also would listen to you when you speak on this, that, many times, sensitive times like these, when the war is on or when the conflict is on, Congress refrained from talking about Rafael, and so did the media. And the larger section of the media didn't talk about this aspect. But this question definitely was posed in that MOD press conference, where the officer concerned chose to say that we cannot confirm nor deny. But we also have a lot of international media, as you said earlier in your submission, that the YouTubers, the international media, they are talking about the fact that China and Pakistan got together and they downed apparently the Rafael, again not confirmed officially by our sources. Now, does a political party like Congress raise questions now? Is the time
Yes,
right
yes,
now to raise those questions? I'm
absolutely.
wanting to answer on this.
See,
Yeah, Vivek.
see,
Uh,
you
yeah,
must,
Vivek,
ask
let
this
Srinivas
question.
answer on this. Yeah, yeah. I wanted Srinivas to
Yeah,
answer. Yes.
thanks. Nilu, I think you are right. These questions to be asked, certainly to be asked. See, I'll tell you, I'll defend DG Air Operations. Look, he is head of the air operation, and his answer was very pertinent. What did he say? That, in any battle, any war, uh, there are damages which happen. One has to take that because that's the nature of the entire business. So, and he stopped at that, except saying that, look, all our boys are safe back. All our pilots are back. That's all he said. I think, there is a certain responsibility on the military armed forces, and they have to keep the morale up when the kind of battle is still on, and they're doing in the middle of the briefings, they are saying all these things. See, some of these questions have to be answered by the civilian leadership post facto, because there was an equivalent briefing going on the other side also, on Pakistan side, where a lot of lies were being fed in. If you were to listen to some of those briefings, they have done, so many things that will be really surprising for us
True.
to sit and see. See, certainly we have caused a certain blow to them. Nobody can deny it. So, to really find about the military details, what happened, whether this caused or not, I would suggest that these are the issues which need to be discussed post facto. And I would say this, for instance, the Balakot thing, there was a initial reports that something else had happened. Perhaps one of our choppers was down. This truth came much later in a parliamentary answer, perhaps, that it was mistakenly shot. It was a friendly fire which resulted in felling of a chopper. In which so this result came much later, and it came in parliament. So I'm sure some of these things will come out later, but the timing is very important, because the emotional window in which the Indian diplomacy is trying to make an impression on the global audience, and then at the same point when there is a kind of a hybrid warfare launched by Pakistan, where they're trying to push across a certain point of view, obfuscating terrorism, it becomes very tricky. I think that's what has happened here. And I would therefore feel that, now for the political parties, especially the oppositions, especially the Congress, because I don't expect other opposition party, because regional parties are not, they have no this thing in the game. They have no skin in the game. None of the regional parties, you could expect them. It's only the
That's right.
Congress party which will have to take up these issues and then articulate them in a very crafty manner. I would give one particular thing. Again, this came out of the discussion with my political editor, Puneet. He was saying this briefing, when the leaders said, when the Congress leader briefed saying that there is an all-party delegation which might go abroad to explain all the countries what has happened in that battle. Very well, Congress has agreed to join. But then, did they raise any question? What happened to the all-party meeting which we are calling for? Can before that PM come and address us and personally tell us
Yes.
what happened? Can we be then we will be better briefed? Go and tell the world what has happened. we'll be more confident of telling. Did they raise a question of there should be a parliament? Did they raise a question, can we take first country into confidence before we going abroad and taking them into confidence? I mean, he wasn't sure whether these questions were raised, and he was, we were discussing. It also depends on how the opposition is able to, now it has become the political management post this. BJP will do its best, and they do it very well. But then it is for the Congress party and the opposition to see the gaps and seize the initiative. That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So we'll have to end it here. It was wonderful. I think it was a great conversation today on this aspect. Thank you so much, Srini sir, Sanjay Jha, Vivek Deshpande. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.